What's up, guys? I'm back. I know it's been a while since we've done a video, but been looking for something new and fun to paint, and Star Wars Legion's come through recently with the Shadow Collective box. I'm sick of doing the normal, boring paint jobs all the time, but I wanted to make it a little bit more fun. You see, doing a normal paint job all the time, it can grow tedious, so I wanted to challenge myself a little bit. How fast could I paint one of these to get it on the table ready to go if I wanted to play it tomorrow? And then, like my other tutorials, I took a little bit longer, in-depth approach to see how long or how much better I could paint it if it weren't an hour. So, if you like the challenge videos and you also like the tutorial videos, this is perfect for you. Not included in the challenge is the assembly and prep time required for the models. Here you can see I've already assembled them, cleaned the mold lines, and glued them together. I've then gone ahead and painted them with a matte black spray primer. In this case, I used the Rust-Oleum matte black that I've used in other videos. With that being said, let's begin on the 10-minute challenge. Because I figured it would take the longest to dry, I began by painting the base. Here, I'm taking some neutral gray and coating the entire base work that I've done. I'm doing this as quick as possible without trying to be too detailed. Next, I'm dry brushing the model. For here, I'm using German gray. I brush from the top down, trying to pull as many details of the model out as possible, as quickly as I can. Because I only have 10 minutes, this is a quick and easy way to add some contrast to the model. It pulls out the details and gives a shadow effect. Then, I'm using a hairdryer to dry as much as I can quickly. Okay, so 10 minutes is really fast, so we're gonna have to fly through this and see what we can get done. In order to quickly shade this model, I'm covering it in Nuln oil. I thought about doing the base, but then second-guessed myself. I'm only going to cover the model itself. As with any wash, you just want to make a nice even coat and avoid any awkward pooling. If you see it pooling up on a flat surface, use your brush to wick it away. Now, I'm going to use Agrax Earthshade and shade the base. Again, in the interest of time, we're back to the hairdryer. I dry it enough so that way when the next coat is applied, it doesn't mess up the undercoat. Now I'm going to detail some of the model with red. Because I'm already down to 3 minutes, I need to be stingy with which areas I'm going to highlight. For this, I'm picking some of the key features, starting with the helmet. Now, I'm moving on to some of the detailing around the skirt area. Because I don't have much time, I'm looking for what's going to make an impact and really stand out. For this, I chose the trim to help divide the model up and show you what is the armor and what isn't. Now, I'm going back with the German gray to frame in some of that red where I may have gone overboard. Finally, I'm trying to finish up the base, and for this, I'm going to do some dry brushing again. I take some sky gray, and removing most of the paint from my brush, I then begin to dry brush the base. With time waning down, I take that extremely light color and lightly dry brush over the model to really punch up some of the highlights. I try and throw just a bit more red onto the model to give it a little bit more color to make it not so monotone. With time expired, I paint the rim black, and now we're done. In the end, it's an extremely quick way to paint up your squad if you're in a bit of a time crunch. Not the best, but it'll get the job done. Overall, for 10 minutes worth of work, I was kind of surprised what I was able to accomplish. It's a quick and easy technique, and honestly, from 3 feet away on the table, it doesn't look that bad. If you like what you saw so far, please drop a like or subscribe to the video. Now, let's see what we can do in an hour. Like our 10-minute model, I begin by just punching up some of the details and adding contrast through a simple dry brush. For this, I use German Gray again. Now, approximately 5.5 minutes later, I remember to turn on my camera. For that, I capture the last of the painting of the red. All I'm doing here is painting the main plates on the Mando. His chest piece, his shoulders, his knees, and a little bit of accents on the helmet. I gave it 2 thin coats to give it nice, even coverage. Now, I switch over to neutral gray, and I begin to highlight some of the details along his belt. Using my brush, I make vertical strokes along all the different sections of the belt. This adds a lighter effect, creating some depth. I'm careful to work my way all around the belt, making sure I don't get any paint in the lower recessed area. This is where we want our shadows to remain. Now, using that same color, I edge highlight some of the sharper edges that I see. Whether it be on the armor or the holster, anything that looks like the light might catch it and cause a shine, I try and highlight. This includes some of the raised areas around his neck and around some of the armor pieces. Although they may not be the smoothest blends, it's an artistic style that can create a sense of light. I continued this onward, going to the jetpack and the other raised areas of armor and on his arms. At this point, I'm not going to hit every single surface I think the light would hit. I'm making a decision to pick out some points I really want to pop on the model. Now I take the edges of all of the horns on the helmet and quickly edge highlight them. Now, with even less paint left on the paintbrush, I try and create subtle edge highlights on the red paneling and some of the black chest paneling that I didn't paint. Careful to only use the edge of my brush, I try and catch some of the details on his gauntlets and gloves as well. Now, I wanted to avoid the monochromatic look I had on the last model, so I chose to take a chance here. For this, I took a new blue wash that I just picked up and decided to coat the entire model. I have 45 minutes to fix my mistakes after all. I'd encourage anyone out there to take chances like this. I honestly wasn't too sure what the result would look like, but in the end, I'm actually really happy with it. As you can see, it actually adds a little bit of life to the model once dried. The lighter areas that were once highlights almost have a subtle yet vibrant blue hue. Can it be both at once? I'm not sure. Next, I begin base coating the base just like I did on the other model. I use neutral gray and make sure to get an even coverage over the entire base. The only spots that I'm not painting here are the little bit of metal debris. Now, I've gone back to the German gray and I'm beginning to frame in some of the red or some of the white highlights that got a little out of hand. This is a quick and easy way to clean it up. I'm also using this color to pull out some subtle highlights. Some raised edges that I think look a little bit too dark, I'm throwing this color down. It's a little bit lighter than the base coat and makes them stand out just a little bit more. I try to pull out some of the armor pieces and make them different than the rest of the model by painting them this semi-lighter color. Now, with a little bit lighter gray mixed in on my brush, almost a combination of neutral gray and German gray, I pull that highlight up even more. I wanted to make sure that the armor plates stood out from the fabric below. Because the blue wash knocked down my highlights a little bit, I began to highlight all of the horns and claws poking out of the armor. I also add subtle highlights to the raised areas of the gauntlets where I picture the light might be shining and making those parts a little bit brighter, trying to bring up my edge highlights again that maybe got blended out a little bit with that wash. Now I've mixed just a little bit of that sky gray in with my red to make it a little bit lighter. With this, I begin edge highlighting some of the red armor plates. For this, I find the easiest technique to either use the edge of your brush, or in this instance, I try and take one smooth stroke towards myself, supporting as many of my fingers as I can. I continue the edge highlighting and kind of fatigue the armor a bit by making bits and marks and slashes wherever I feel appropriate. I try and quickly frame in some of the highlights on the helmet by having very little paint on my brush. I don't want it to run over and completely cover the red underneath. Back to German gray to frame in any mistakes I might have made. Overall, we're a half hour in and I think he looks pretty good. I'd be happy putting this model on the table as is. Being happy with the model where it's at currently, I figure I should devote a little bit of time to the base. For this, I start out with the Agrax Earthshade wash again. Instead of rushing through it with a hairdryer, I'll allow that to dry naturally. While I do that, I'll take some sky gray and highlight the armor even further. Focusing on the horns on his shoulders, I try and paint the sides evenly, and then I will turn and try and catch the edges to get full coverage. Now, I really punch up the highlights on the horns on the helmet. I want these to stand out. So with quick brush strokes, I just make a nice little highlight. There's a few details on the gauntlets and gloves as well that I chose to just highlight particular with a bright color. After this, I went for the belt. On the belt, I chose one side of all the little clasps that I was going to highlight. I took my sky gray and I made a nice small vertical stroke on the right side of each part of the belt. This is a great way to practice both brush control and edge highlighting. Now, I'm going to select a few areas of the model of which I really want to emphasize the highlight. I try and take the hard line, sharp edges and make them pop. I'll also do this along the very sharp edges on the red panels as well. In order to break up the helmet a little bit more, I decided to paint these sharp edges as well. Continue around the model, accenting different areas until you're happy with how it looks. If there's any spots that you feel the highlight's too big, just grab your base coat and go back over and frame it in. After that, I blended the red and the gray and I start to distress the armor a bit. Here, the randomness is key. You don't want to make it too routine or pattern, otherwise it won't look natural. I continue to do this on the different areas of the jetpack and shoulders. Now, with just under 20 minutes to go, I begin painting all the metal debris on the ground. For this, I use Leadbelcher or any other type of metallic silver. Because I want to add some other effects, I use a hairdryer here to get it dried quickly. I begin to frame in the base, thinking that I'm going to be done, but then I decide I want to add a little bit more detailing. For this, I break out my Typhus Corrosion. This is a paint that once dry gives a rust type effect with a little bit of texture to it. I try and place this in different areas I would picture water pooling inside this debris. After that's dried slightly, I go back with a rust-colored wash and fill in the center of all of those areas. Now I picture this area to be all corroded from rainwater or whatever, so for this, I use a little bit of clear UV resin and create a puddle type effect around one of his feet. Using an old discarded brush, I wipe the resin to where I want it to
up. Once I'm happy with the result, into the UV light it goes to cure. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the result, and I feel as though the base kind of tells a story in addition to the model. I would encourage anyone out there to spend a little bit more time on your bases, really give it a story. In the end, I was able to add a lot more details to the model on the right. The model on the left, however, would suffice just fine. You could perhaps use the technique on the right for heroes, while using the technique on the left in order to get an army done quickly.
As you can see, I was able to get a lot more detail into a miniature in an hour. Now granted, you don't want to spend an hour on every single Mandalorian in your army, but maybe if you are just painting him up to look cool or put him in a cabinet, that might be the technique for you. Or you can take a blend of both different techniques, the 1 hour and the 10-minute approach. Either way, do what works for you and make your army yours. So there you have it, guys, Mandalorian Super Commandos. I was actually pretty surprised with how fast I was able to paint one. 10 minutes is pretty quick. Now mind you, the details are lacking, but from 3 feet away on the table, it'll look great. Now the second one, I was able to take a little bit more time, and I was kind of surprised with how much more time I had. I think you could accurately paint these things to a decent standard in about a half hour apiece. Take whatever techniques you like from each of the different time zones that I did, and apply them to your army. And until next time, keep creating. Are challenge videos dumb? Like, ooh, another miniature painter, another challenge video, but it makes it fun, right? Like, it's not always just super fun, just painting start to finish per the book. If you got ideas out there of what videos you want me to do to keep me interested and keep me making these, fire them over this way. I would love to hear them. I feel like I need a better intro, like, hey guys, what did I do, like the head swoop thing? I don't know what that was about.